Good morning, students. Once again, this is your science teacher, Mr. James. Are you excited for our new lesson? Great. Before we start, I want you to get the following materials. First, your science textbook, your science workbook, your pen, and your earphone. Before we start with our new lesson, let's have a quick review in our previous lesson. Do you still remember the title of our lesson last week? Great. Phases and eclipses. What causes the moon's phases? And what are eclipses?
When you look up at the moon night after night, it appears to slowly change shape. These changes, known as phases, are repeated every month. This is because they depend on where the moon is in orbit around the Earth, a journey that takes 29.5 days. Notice that half of the moon is always lit up by the sun, and that half is always in shadow. From Earth, we see different amounts of the bright side at different times of the month. This is what causes the phases of the moon. When the moon is on the same side as the sun, we can only see its shadowed side. We call this a new moon. As the moon moves along its orbit, we see more and more of the bright side. The moon appears to grow, and we say that it's waxing. At first, we can only see a thin sliver of the light that reflects off the moon. We call this a waxing crescent moon. When the moon reaches a quarter of the way around its orbit, we can see half of its bright side. We call this the first quarter moon. As the moon continues, we see more than half of its bright side. We call this a waxing gibbous moon. When the moon reaches the halfway point on its orbit around the Earth, we can see the whole lit up side. This is a full moon. On the second half of the moon's journey, we see less and less of its bright side. We say that the moon is waning. First, we see a waning gibbous moon, where we can still see more than half of the bright side. When the moon reaches 3/4 of the way around the Earth, we again see half of the moon lit up. This time it's called the third quarter moon. We then see less than half of the moon, called a waning crescent moon. Finally, we see another new moon, and the cycle begins again.
Let's talk about solar and lunar eclipses. When the shadow of one celestial body, like the moon or the Earth, falls on another, an eclipse occurs. A solar eclipse happens when the moon comes between the Earth and the sun, and the shadow of the moon falls on part of the Earth. A lunar eclipse happens when the Earth comes between the sun and the moon, and the shadow of the Earth falls on the moon.
Solar eclipses, we have two types. We have total solar eclipses and partial solar eclipses. Two types of lunar eclipses are total lunar eclipses and partial lunar eclipses. For this week, we will talk about tides. So I want you to open your book on page 499. Let's start. Objectives. After this lesson, students will apply scientific principles to explain what causes tides, and students will explain the difference between high and low tides and how they are created. Vocabulary words. After this lesson, you will understand the meaning of the following words. First, tide, spring tide, and neap tide. What are tides? So when you say tides, the rise and fall of ocean that occurs every 12.5 hours or so. The water rises for about 6 hours, then falls for about 6 hours. So here are examples of tides. So we have high tide and low tide. The tide cycle. The force of gravity pulls the moon and earth, including the water, on Earth's surface toward each other. Tides are caused mainly by differences in how much gravity from the moon and the sun pulls off different parts of Earth. So remember, when we say gravity or gravitation is a natural phenomenon by which all things with mass or energy, including planets, stars, galaxies, and even light, are brought toward one another. At any one time on Earth, there are two places with high tides and two places with low tides. As Earth rotates, one high tide occurs on the opposite side of Earth, the side of Earth facing the moon. So as we've discussed, there are two types of tides. So we have high tide. At high tide, the ocean water has risen as high as it will go on a shore. And at low tide, the ocean water has fallen as low as it can go on a shore. So in this picture, which one is high tide and which one is low tide? So I'll give you 3 seconds to answer this question. Okay, time's up. So the first picture is the high tide and the second picture is the low tide. Okay, is your answer correct? Very good. Okay, let's proceed. The near side. The moon's gravity pulls a little more strongly on the water on the side closest to the moon than on Earth as a whole. This difference causes a bulge of water on the side of Earth closest to the moon. This bulge causes high tide. The far side, the moon's gravity pulls more weakly on the water on the far side of Earth than on Earth as a whole. Since Earth is pulled more strongly, the water is left behind. Water flows toward the far side, causing high tide. Halfway between the high tides, water flows toward the high tides, causing low tide. So in these areas, it is high tides, and these areas are low tides. Always remember, the high tides always follow the moon. The sun's role. Even though the sun is about 150 million kilometers from Earth, it is so massive that its gravity affects the tides. The sun pulls the water on Earth's surface toward it. Changes in the positions of Earth, the moon, and the sun affects the height of the tides during a month. New moon. So remember, when the moon is in between the sun and the earth, we cannot see the moon. This part of the moon is in the shade. This is called a new moon. So the sun, the moon, and earth are nearly in a line during a new moon. So they are in one line. The gravity of the sun and the moon pull in the same direction. So what will happen? Their combined forces produce a tide with the greatest difference between consecutive low and high tides called a spring tide. So spring tide comes from an old English word springen, meaning to jump. First quarter. The first quarter moon is a primary moon phase when we can see exactly half of the moon's surface illuminated. So during the moon's first phase, the line between Earth and the Sun is at right angles to the line between Earth and the Moon. Okay, they form right angle. The Sun's pole is at right angles to the Moon's pole. This arrangement produces a neap tide. So remember, when you say neap tide, a tide with the least difference between consecutive low and high tides. Remember, neap tides occurs twice a month. Full moon. When the earth is in between the moon and the sun, we can see whole part of the moon which is lit up by the sun. This is called a full moon. So at full moon, the moon and the sun are on opposite sides of earth. Since there are high tides on both sides of earth, a spring tide is also produced. So same as new moon. Third quarter. Third quarter moon, the phase of the moon at which the moon as viewed from earth appears to be half illuminated by the sun on its easternmost side. So it also produces neap tides, right angle to the line between earth and the sun. The result is a neap tide. So the same effect happens during the third quarter. So remember, neap tides occurs during first and last quarter moons. Vocabulary words. First, tide. So when we say tide, the periodic rise and fall of the level of water in the ocean. So this is an example of tide. Rise and fall of the water in the ocean. So next word is springtide. So when we say springtide, the tide with the greatest difference between consecutive low and high tides. So again, the word is springtide. And the last word is neap tide. So when we say neap tide, the tide with least difference between consecutive low and high tides. Let's summarize our lesson. What are tides? So the tide cycle and the sun's role. The moon exerts a gravitational pull on the earth that causes the oceans to rise and fall. The moon's gravitational pull causes the ocean, to bulge. Each of these bulges causes a high tides, and at the same time, low tides occurs between two bulges. Spring tides. So remember, when the earth, moon, and sun are orbiting in a linear arrangement, the moon is in either the new or full stage, with the sun and moon pulling together on the water. Tides are increased, called a spring tide. So remember, spring tide comes from an Old English word, springen, meaning to jump. Okay, remember, spring tides occurs when the earth, sun, and moon are aligned. Spring tides occurs during new moon and full moon phases. They are called spring tides because they seem to spring up with a surge of water, and they occur twice a month during full and new moons. Okay? Neap tides. At quarter phases, the moon pulls opposite and equal to the sun, resulting in a lower tides called neap tide. Okay, remember, neap tides occur when the sun and moon are aligned at right angles to one another. Neap tides occur during quarter moon phases. Also occur twice a month when the moon is in its first and third quarters, half moons. Question and answer part. Are you ready, students? Great. Okay, the first question is, how does the moon cause a high tide? So I'll give you 5 seconds to answer this question. Okay, time's up. The correct answer is did you get the correct answer? Great work. Why does the moon have a greater gravitational pull on the Earth's tides? So I'll give you 5 seconds to answer this question. Okay, time's up. The correct answer is because it is closer to the Earth. Did you get the correct answer? Well done. Thank you for watching and listening in our video. I hope you enjoy and you learn something from this video. Thank you.